Hi everyone, welcome back to Past Life Chronicles, and we are back with Nidhie. Last time we did cover a lot of interesting things about past life regression. We talked about certain case studies where people had these profound learnings and they had these patterns broken, and it was so interesting. So this time, again, let me introduce Nidhie. She is a certified NLP practitioner and a past life regression facilitator. And we are so glad that she's given us time and we're back with her. So a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Parul. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody.
So last time I remember that we touched upon a lot of topics regarding karma. We talked about karma pattern breaking. We talked about how people they found people in their present lives that were connected to them like way beyond like how hundreds of years back. So, and we did touch upon something called the dark night of the soul, but we just kind of it was like a touch and go kind of thing. So we did hear a lot from people that what is the dark night of the soul, because I know a lot of people have heard about that, but there's a lot of misconceptions around it. So today I'm hoping that we can help the learners and the listeners essentially learn more about this particular phenomena called the dark night of the soul and how your karma comes into play and all these additional fun things come into play. Welcome you.
Thank you.
So the first question would be like, what is essentially the dark night of the soul? I mean, like, what is it? For any normal listener who's never heard of it or who just has heard like bits and pieces of it.
From what I've been able to experience through my personal life as well, and through the lives of the interactions that I had with people, dark night is, like the word says, darkness. It's a period of intense darkness in one's life where we don't know where to go and how to move forward from a certain juncture or at a certain point that we've come to. And it is also a time which is filled with a lot of pain and intense internal crisis which is going on with the person, where you feel that everything is falling apart. There is just no tomorrow. That's the kind of, and it can be a lot of experiences, that real-time experiences that we have. It can be related to careers, it can be related to relationships, it can be related to health, it can be an intense period where a person doesn't have a way forward or doesn't see the light of the day, or thinks that, or experiences that, or feels that this is the end. This is the end of it. So it's almost death-like. It's so intense. It's painful, not necessarily physical pain, but an intense internal pain, an internal time of crisis. That is called the dark night of the soul. So these are the periods. The time period can vary from person to person. It's easy to drown in this period, but this is also that period of revival. It's like a small bird is flying up in the sky, and there is a fire burning, and suddenly something happens that bird falls into the fire, and some transformation happens, as a result of which the bird turns into a phoenix rising from the fire. So dark night of the soul essentially is that turning point also. There is this particular line that runs in my head all the time, is that the ground that you fall on is the same ground that you push back against to get up.
Yeah.
So there is nothing else that comes. That is the time when your internal strength gets awakened inside. It's like that now or never time, where you've got to do something, and that is when you meet the real person inside. It's intense, it's painful, and it's transformational. It's transformational when you just step on to the other side, and that's also a process. And when you speak about the word karma, I think it is a design in one's life. It is meant to happen because the transformational journey has to begin. A new way of looking at things has to begin from that time. The perspectives completely change beyond that. So that is that period of intense intense painful experience, and I think it is a good experience.
So thank you for that. I think that definitely puts into perspective like what is the dark night of the soul. Yes, it is painful, but like the end result is something which is very beautiful. Like I love the example of phoenix rising. So
Yes.
essentially, that's what person should kind of look for if they are in this particular stage. Is there a way to kind of differentiate between like mental health crisis and dark night of the soul? Because even in a mental health crisis you feel that there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of darkness. So, or are they kind of connected, or like how do we go about like differentiating like, oh, this is something and this is something?
Um, it is also a period, like we say, that we may need help. We may need to talk to somebody. Mental health. What is a mental health? Is let's say depression. A lot of understanding that is coming into depression is that depression is a continued state of being in a particular low. If we are not able to come out of that, so an event has happened in life, for example, and that begins to create low phases like sadness, like constant thinking of being the victim there, or not knowing what good can this experience be. It's a very fair understanding. How can this experience be good for me when it is just so negatively bad? Loss of someone dear, loss of a career. In our world, we it's natural to feel aligned and important as we are growing in our careers, and suddenly if that ends, a person's entire foundation gets shaken. And when that foundation gets shaken, it's absolutely in line to their thinking that this cannot be happening to me, or why is this happening to me. So of course that period has happened. Now what do we do? A lot of times people have now started seeking help. So we do hear of people saying, okay, I'm in this situation, I'm not able to get out of it, I need help, I need to reach out. Even somebody to talk to is help sought. Now, if that continued state of mind continues to happen inside, what happens is things like depression and all these mental illnesses are also changing the chemistry of the body. Right? So our hormonal system, our endocrine system gets triggered. An event happens in life. That event happens once. Okay? With that event happening, it's a darkest period. And what follows that event can happen. For example, somebody is coming and talking, and suddenly in a conversation, a trigger happens when that event becomes alive again. Now we need to understand that events happen in our life only once. But memory of that event continues to keep that event active in our internal space day on day. The more we think about it, the more active it remains. So when I say active, it means that our body composition, the time when it happened to us for the first time, our body composition or chemistry is experiencing the same kind of resurgence of hormones, resurgence of all the chemicals inside again and again. As a result of which, the personality will start to take form in a different way. If we don't take that into cognizance, or we don't take action on that, or if we don't seek help at that time, it can turn into a mental illness.
So it's like we are reliving the same situation over and over and over again, irrespective of like it can be an external trigger, it can be an internal trigger.
Yes.
So
isn't that what it is? Isn't that what memory is?
Yeah. This kind of
memory is what? It's a spontaneous regression. Since we are talking about the subject of regression, it's a spontaneous regression that we've gone to. Memory is an event which is of the past. So if you're thinking about that event in the now, then that means it's a spontaneous regression into that time, in that timeline of the past. So we are there. We might be sitting here in person, but in our thoughts, we are somewhere else. And then it doesn't end over there. It goes into a spool. One thought leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and one can very easily then spiral down.
Mm.
So that spiraling down, continual of that phase. So becoming silent over it, not sharing about it, constantly getting angry about and upset about things, etc., as a result of that event
Mm.
can take us towards a space of mental illness. And mental illnesses are various forms. I mean, there's a whole range of it, from mild to severe.
Mm.
But then there is always a way out. It's very difficult to understand that this plan is for me and for my growth. Because how can something so negative
Yeah.
be for my good? Is something difficult to fathom. And that continues to keep bringing us down. I mean, until somebody arrives or until we reach out, that continues to bring us down. So the negative emotions of anger, frustration, jealousy, guilt, shame, sadness are all spiraling down, and they spiral. You can just continue to be in that for days around. So that thing needs to then take a different form.
So it's like, yes, something happened with someone, that event happened. So if that is kind of kept unchecked and the emotions and the feelings are relived over and over again, so that can lead to like a mental, health crisis or mental health issue. But maybe we can say, correct me if I'm wrong, that the beginning part of when you feel that everything has collapsed around me and I don't see tomorrow, I don't see the light. So would that be kind of the beginning of the dark night of the soul? Because something so profound has happened that it has shaken me to my core. But
Yes.
instead of like, for my understanding, like you explained, there are two parts. Either I can do something about it, or I can go down that spiral like you talked about and just keep on reliving that and just go down there. So the dark night of the soul, essentially, we can say it's like an entry point into that tunnel, but the path that we choose essentially will kind of help us identify like where do we want to go, do we want to learn from this, or do we not want to learn from this and just kind of go into the victim mentality and say, why does this happen to me? That's what we hear people say.
So this entire length of the tunnel
Yeah, you
is the
just
dark
like,
night.
okay.
Until one begins to acknowledge the fact that there is light at the end of this tunnel, until one begins to acknowledge the fact that everything comes to an end. So this will do.
Oh, this too shall pass. I did
Yes.
read a story somewhere where there was a king. I think I narrated this in the last podcast also. I just keep on repeating stuff where the king tells all his people. He says, "Give me a gift, and whatever gift makes me the happiest, and it should make me happy and sad at the same time." So everyone was like, what should we do? What should we do? So one of the viziers kind of gives him a ring which says, "This too shall pass." So he says, when you look at it, when you're happy, you read it and you feel sad because this happiness will also pass. But if you're sad, and when you read that ring, like, this too shall pass. So that, will bring you to, joyful things. So continuing with the dark night of the soul and entry to the tunnel, like you saying. So does this have to deal with, do we have to deal with our like karmic past? Like, is it coming into play? Does karma kind of come into play? Like, why did this? Because I think most people struggle with, including me, struggle with like, why did this happen to me? I have not done wrong. I haven't harmed anyone, and this just happened to me. Like, why me? I think that question most people don't kind of get answered, and that I think does lead to the mental health crisis because you feel so sorry for yourself that I am good, I am nice. The perspective that we have about us, we feel like we are the best. We haven't harmed anyone. But then when something like that happens, a profound, crisis happens, and then we are unable to come to terms with why did this happen. Is this something like some karma coming into play? Like, why does this transpire, and how do we kind of, deal with it? Because I think that is what most people struggle with.
True. There are a lot of things that come to my mind as far as now that you're asking this. It is karma. The more intense it is, it certainly is karma. And like you said, that nothing of that sort has happened in this life. One's led a very reasonably okay life when consciously you've not made or done harm to others or made those kind of mistakes where, it is like, what is the reason that this may be happening to me? Karmic is what? Karma is what? Karma is what you sow is what you're reaping. It's like the cause and effect cycle. Now, our mind is conditioned to understand it only from this life's perspective because it's only this life which is a proof to us that we are alive and that life is happening to us and that things are happening. It's very difficult to understand for those who are unversed with the philosophy of reincarnation to actually believe that even before we were born, we have lived before. And we've lived different timelines and with different events of history we've been a part of. We could have been a part of famines, we could have been parts of war, we could have, had a real royal kind of an experience where we could be a part of that kind of kingdom. However, whatever we've read in history. So, in all of these, a lot could have happened. And all of that, so what is karma, basically? It's, when you look at karma, it is in three parts when we need to break this down. One is that before we come into this lifetime, we have lived many lives. Many lives. And in all those many lives, karma is good as well as not so good. And I'd say not so good is something which is difficult for us to handle. We want to categorize that into good, and if our life is nice, flourishing, etc., we want to not so good, the earlier part. And if our life is flourishing, etc., we want to put it in the good category. So just for the sake of differentiating, I will say good and not so good. However, there is no kind of label that we need to put on karma. Karma is, the way I understand, a lesson plan. Okay. So each life, what is the reason that we are born? We are born in every life to evolve. And evolution happens through experiential learning. For a soul to evolve, experiences coming down in the physical form can be through an animal life, can be through a plant life, can be, of course, through a human life. All of these lives will help enable the soul to evolve in the journey. Now, as the soul is evolving in the journey, there are, as per our scriptures and how beautifully they explain is that until we are in an animal life, so in science also we understand lower forms of life and human being at the top of that journey of evolution as far as the form is concerned. Why? Because the earlier forms of life are very simple. Simple single cell to multiple cellular organs to then aquatic life, to then avian life, to then a mammalian life, etc. So all of this, when we are coming up, we're moving from simple to complex. And when you come to the mammalian part, it becomes complicated because there's a whole lot of organizational structure which has come into being where different aspects of our body are being looked after different. So there's a lot of diversification by the time we are into humans and mammals actually onwards within the system. So this is science. Philosophically, or how the Bharatiya philosophy explains it, the Sanatan concept explains it, is that up until the time you are in an animal life, you do not add any karma. As soon as you come into the human life, you start adding karma. The reason being that the faculty of right or wrong arrives in what is called buddhi, the intellect, in the human beings. Before that, it's all instinctual, all based on instinct. So we're not saying that animals do not have feelings or animals do not have emotions. They care for the young ones. So from reptilian onwards, so reptiles, when we say cold-blooded to warm-blooded, the transition is cold-blooded don't care. We've heard of even some snakes which look after the young ones and birth rather than giving eggs or laying eggs. So some transition started to happen. Now, in the say birds and animals, etc., they care for the young ones. So there is feeling. They feed the young ones. There is nurturing. All of that is there, but they act as per their personality. For example, a tiger, even let's take even our dog at home. As long as you're petting the dog, it's fine. The moment it feels threatened, it will not think before jumping and biting you. That's the owner also. Okay? So the dog does not stop short to think, am I doing it right or am I not doing it right? Now that discriminatory ability of discriminating between right or wrong, thinking of spirituality, thinking about what is my life going or where is my life, all of that has come only in human beings. Right? That is where karma starts adding. So we've led a lot of lives in plants, animals, etc., and our soul has grown. Now the soul has come to a point where we need to experience human life and experience all these relationships and experience all these, let's say, material world, experience how we can earn money and fend for ourselves and all of that. In that, sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we make mistakes which turn out counterproductive to what we are supposed to be doing. That is when the karma starts adding. Right? So karma is what? Something that we didn't do right has gotten added or registered in our soul growth cell. This is a learning lesson which now needs to be taken up in another lifetime or another time in this lifetime also perhaps. Now what happens is before we are born, we've got a whole kitty of karmic, let's say, in a basket, there's a collection of what we are supposed to learn further on. So it's going to be collected. In our Indian reference, it is called Sanchit Karam, which is called the ones which have gotten added on till now. This is before I'm born as who I am right now. Now from this entire basket of some can be intense, some can be mild, some can be very easy, some can be tough. There will be a lesson plan made for this life. Of those baskets, depending on how the lesson plan is made for this life before we are born. And the ones who have got to participate with us, so our soul group, who are called our soulmates. Or some people who just come walk into our life just for a short period. All of that is planned before we are born. And for this life, from that basket, we will bring, say, about, if let's say, mathematically speaking, just for example, if we got 100 in that basket, let's say we brought in 10 for this life's lesson plan. That is called our destiny for this life. Now, whatever we brought, the 10, remaining 90 are there, whatever we brought, 10, are not going to start getting activated immediately at the time of birth. Some will start. No, some start right in the beginning. Some children are very sick. Some children are born into extreme conditions where they are given away by their own parents. Karma has started. That intense karma has started even from infancy. A child losing its mother right at the time of childbirth. Karma has started. Intense karma has started. You know, it all depends on how that lesson plan is. Some karma has to get activated, say, at the time of someone's career. Some karma needs to get activated at the time someone's marriage. So all of that time, one would say, I was perfect until I met this person.
Yeah.
Is that now? Yeah. So there's some, and who is managing all that? All the ones who appreciate astrology and they understand what the planetary movement is happening and what planets are doing. All the planets are setting this into an autopilot for us. So okay, this period of life, this period of life, this period of life, one can tell by going through astrological reading, okay, fine, this must be happening in your life right now. Right? So all of that is happening. However, the one who is experiencing, for that person, the experience is real, felt, painful, or happy, depending. So karma is not negative only. So we've had, and then what we brought out, like 10 from those into this life, is called our prarabdha. That's our lesson plan for this life. So let's understand karma as a lesson plan. We send children to school, right? So there's a whole lot of search criteria based on how far the school is, how good the school is, how nice the school will be for the way we want the child to perform, or so all of that is done before the child goes to school. Once the child goes to school, the school takes over, right?
Yeah.
So once the planning has happened and once we are born, life takes over. And that has a mix of lessons for us. So this is our product. Now when we are living, there will be all these crucial junctures of crossroads with respect to anything. Could be health, could be finance, could be relationships, could be anything. Could be internal crisis. All of these lead to an internal crisis. Some lessons we pass with flying colors. So when we say out of 10 that we brought for this life, say 5 we passed with flying colors. 5 we backtracked. Okay, so there is that juncture that happens. Every juncture of our life is a point of choice. And whatever choices we make, we either go forward, or we go backward, or we go sideways. So whatever the plan was, we could have gone forward with that, so lesson would have continued to work. We went sideways, the lesson only changed, the thing only changed. If we went back, then we decided, okay, no, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. So we stopped that. Now, of that 5, cancel 5 are remaining, but and you do something different, then something else starts off. Okay? So these 5 remain pending, add that back to the 90 which is remaining, and some mistakes that we made now, say 10 more mistakes, add 10 more here, 90 plus 5 plus 10. That goes on for the next life plan, and that gets added on. It's called agami. What is now to be arrived, to arrive up ahead in the future. So karmas are like this. When we understand this karmic cycle, and when we understand that it's a lesson plan for me, each person's lesson plan is specifically designed for his or her need of the soul to grow. So we cannot compare. We cannot say, how would you know what it is like to be in my position? You've got to walk in my shoes for some time, only then we'll understand. Yes, that's a fair point. However, the understanding of karma is each person's journey is very uniquely designed for that particular person's soul growth only. It's just that in the physical body, when we are here, the experiences that we experience are so real, so painful at times, that it is fair sometimes to say or understand from a person's perspective also that maybe it's too difficult to handle. However, something will come in, or something, if it is specifically crafted, say for me, then it is crafted for me only because I am capable of handling. A student would go to medical college only because that person has gone through that kind of training and is now ready to be in the medical college. If that person is not ready to be in the medical college, would not go there. So when we begin to use these analogies and understand it from the perspective of how life is, if you're not capable mind-wise to do engineering, you will not go in that direction. You will not be able to. But that's not the plan. All right, so you go into commerce and you go into maybe arts or fine arts and literature or poetry or whatever you want to do, because that is what your alignment is. If you put that and juxtapose that this analogy into the analogy of lifetimes, then something somebody has experienced only because one is capable of, and that is how the lesson plan was made. But here on the earth, because we do not have any memory of our previous lifetime, like we discussed last time, and that is when past life regression enables us to actually elongate this timeline and put a thing into perspective, which is not from the here and now, but from a previous lifetime, and that can go far back to any time period, depending on where that lesson was from. So it's not just the previous life's lesson which is for the next life. Lessons can be pending from multiple lifetimes or far back lifetimes also. It's just that the situation, the condition needs to be conducive for that lesson. Only then we will be able to pick that lesson up of karma up from that basket and bring it here. That's how it is. So karmically, that's how we need to understand. If it's happening to you, then you're fully capable of handling it. That is something that you need to believe and understand. But for that, you need faith.
Yes. I think that is something that people, especially in today's world, it's like the quick gratification thing has happened. I just need it right now. So if I understand from the conversation we had right now, so we pick up the lesson plans from our Sanchit Karma, and that's called the Prarabdha, which comes into this, and we bring that with us in this particular lifetime or in a lifetime, and at particular milestones. If you think, like for me, I would envision my life as a road. So those milestones, I'll hit them. Now, how I deal with that is something that's up to me, because I think, for my understanding, it's like free will. Like, how do I choose to deal with that? So, right, like you said, that if I was not capable enough, I would not be given that particular situation. But it is very difficult when you are like in the muck of everything to see things clear. So, is there can in that regard past life regression help someone who has had this profound, intense crisis which has kind of broken them down completely? So would that definitely help them, or kind of because see, dark night of the soul is like, again, like you said, it's very painful when you don't feel any hope. I think hope is what keeps us going. So if we tend to lose that, the only sliver of hope, I think then it becomes very difficult to carry. So can people who are going through this situation right now, I'm sure a lot of us definitely go through it. So there are two questions right here. First of all, does this happen like constantly, or once when I'm done with the dark night of the soul, I'm done for my life? And it won't happen again. That's the first question. Does it happen over and over again? Can it happen? And the second is that if it happens, is it a good, thing to kind of go and talk to someone like, a past life facilitator, who can kind of help us identify, because most humans, I think, we are incapable of identifying what's happening to us, because, the spiritual level is not that high. I would say we're still kind of progressing. But so would that be a good, solution for them to just get help from somewhere, so that at least they can navigate those rough waters and come out on the other?
To answer your first question, can this happen again? See, if it is a lesson plan and we missed the point of learning that lesson, that lesson will be crafted in another form and come back. It can happen in the same life also, because maybe, as far as we spoke about our guides last time, there is somebody who's watching us. They'll create a situation, fine, you've not been able to do it this time. Let's see if you're able to do it next time. It's about passing the test. Once you pass the test, then of course that lesson will not be repeated. Also, there are certain times when you think you have passed and you think you've made progress. Then something will get triggered in your life such that to test you that okay fine, you think you've been able to come out, now let's see how you are able to handle this situation. If we pass that, then of course there's no need for that lesson to be repeated. It's all growth, because what does passing mean? A person you can never be the same again, Parul. You cannot be that same person again. If you experience something and overcome something, then you've evolved a step. You've gone up the ladder of evolution. And I'm saying it's more like an internal awareness evolution. Let's say we feed our body and we realize the body is a certain way. And we want the body to be a certain way, okay? We want muscle, etc. We're going to change the diet of the body and we would see the body transforming. Exercise, we would see the body transforming. We can see the physical transformation. We can see the change from when we were little babies to how we are grown up now. We've seen transformation. Every transformation is giving up on a certain thing and moving to the next. So when you're moving to the next physical wise, you're not going to go back to being a baby again because physically you evolved. The next is your internal being, the evolution of that also. So once that evolves also through these experiences, would you want to be, would there be any need to go back there again? No need to be there, going back. Now we can also think about or put our attention on what we call patterns in my life. Okay, patterns. This is a pattern. Every time this doesn't work with me. You've not learned the lesson. Therefore, it is becoming a pattern. The moment the pattern changes, how will the pattern change? You will need to do something differently. If you keep doing the same thing again, expecting a different outfit, it's like sitting on a rocking chair and thinking you're making progress distance-wise. Okay, so that pattern needs to change. That means the input needs to change for the output to be different. So the pattern will definitely change. So that is one. So that is how the lesson wants to continue till the time you've not. If we finish this life and come to the end of this life and we've still not learned the lesson, it's that category of 5 remaining, which get added into the Sanchit and become a part of the next. When the Agami, the current life karma is also getting added. So patterns will repeat. And patterns are seen repeating lifetime to lifetime also. In my experience with past life regression, I've seen. So patterns repeating. That means that life, opportunity given, missed. Opportunity given, missed. This time, somebody has experienced the past life regression, knows that this has become a pattern. Now, the awareness has gotten activated, saying, wait, do something different. Change, grow up. So if one is prone to anger, in that life, anger ruined things. Next life, anger ruined things. This life, anger is also predominant still. And suddenly, past life regression of these 2 lifetimes will create an awareness in a person which will say, I need to do something different. Anger is not going to lead me to where I need to go. And I will need to change something. So consciously, something starts to change. I would say not even consciously. I think subconsciously something becomes a part of your subconscious being. And the moment you're in that point where the trigger would trigger you into an anger response or anger reaction, something will ask you to hold back. That would start creating a gap between reaction and the event and your response or your reaction. That gap is called response now. So, and then this would begin to grow. So the personality would start changing. You find, okay, I handle things differently as well. So lessons will continue to be a part. Even this life, situations are given again and again to us so that we are able to learn it.
Yeah, I think this can also help, like going back to our earlier conversation where we were talking about mental health. Like you go into that same pattern, you think the same thing, then you go deeper and deeper and spiral down. So if, like you said, if you can create a gap between when you are reliving that experience and the reaction that you're giving to that experience because of the past life regression that happened, and now you are able, you are, it has come into your awareness that, oh, I am doing the same thing again, I'm reliving something which I should not, and instead of reacting like blindly, I'm kind of giving that gap. I think I really love that gap analogy because that gives you the time to kind of, get yourself up and hold yourself back. Like, let me not do it again. So I think that ways, talking about the dark night of the soul, like how can you not go down the rabbit hole into the rabbit hole of mental, health crisis, and use the dark night of the soul as a growth path, because just by, I think that would be a practical tip which you gave right now, and I think a lot of people should really apply that just give a gap between your reaction to a situation and kind of, just stepping back and seeing, like, should I do what I always used to do and expect a difference?
Correct. Stepping back from that moment is will give also us an ability to watch ourselves from a distance. And suddenly you say, okay, fine, okay, change, okay, change. Okay, breathe. Okay, breathe. Right? Sometimes we forget to breathe also.
Yeah.
So this gap is very important. And the more we are becoming aware of this part of me which is more in control than this one who is prone to losing control. This one becomes an internal guide. This is the higher self which is already always forever present inside of us. This higher self is divinely connected, continues to receive guidances if we allow it to. If we listen to it, it works for us. If we don't, it says it's okay, do what you want to.
Yeah. So I think it's the reactionary part, like the flight or fight mechanism, which we've evolved from there, right? We've evolved like fight or flight. So if we kind of find a way to control the animalistic part of ourselves and be aware of, instead of just reacting to something, just stopping for a moment and giving that gap, thinking about it, moving a step behind, watching ourselves do something, let me not do the same thing that I did earlier. So that's when I think the dark night of the soul can be used for, like, that's the growth, path or the journey. It starts from there because we've used the power of the dark night of the soul to transform. I think this is the transformation that we talk about, like, this, like the phoenix rising. It fell into the fire, but it did something and it came out of the fire. So I think it also gave that gap. I really love the gap analogy.
You know how how the things can change within us is when we begin to think that this entire game plan is especially crafted for me to grow. That's one. Secondly, if we look at karma not as reward or punishment, as we've been trained to look at it, but as a plan of growth, that will enable us to ask ourselves questions. What am I supposed to learn from this situation? That is also creating a gap. And when we say past life regression, there are a lot of counseling, a lot of techniques like neuro-linguistic programming, etc. They are helping and enabling how emotionally we are able to take charge of things, how we are. See, it's about the mind. Either the mind governs you or rules you. And when you begin to change and shift and grow and evolve within, you begin to take charge of that mind. So who's ruling when? Dark night of the soul, mind rules you. Evolution, phoenix rising, you rule the mind. And that needs a lot of effort on our part to work on our inner being also. We do a lot for our physical body. We do a lot as far as our careers are concerned, to study and taking up a particular stream of line of education so that we can be in that line of study. But right from the earlier years, things like meditation, they enable creating gaps. Children ought to be taught how to meditate and be more aware of themselves. Children, I mean children, really small children also. So this kind of understanding, when it starts coming right from the childhood, creates a personality which is like a more balanced personality. So let's understand, life will continue to happen in terms of events unfolding in our life. But if we are only a subject expert, how will we know how to handle things which life is bringing us? If I'm into finance, for example, and I know everything about finance and economics, etc., but I know nothing about how to handle politics at work, how to handle relationships, how to work on communication. Communication is understood mostly as how perfectly we speak in a particular language. The communication does not mean that. You need to change the way you say things, how you say things, depending on the people that you're talking to in front. So that means you've got to be as flexible as that. And if you're able to gauge, then that gauging enables you to, it brings you information. I need to talk to this person this way. I need to talk to this person this way. These people will understand it only when I say these things. Is when our understanding of people in our life, or how to understand how humans function, various human beings function, all differently. Internally, we're all different. So that is the training which is missing. That is the training we need. Our education system needs to inculcate or bring in these aspects more. Now everything is at the click of a button, okay? We can find information from there. So we don't really need to mug up things. But what we need to train is how to be that inner person, because that is something that we'll not be able to learn just by reading. That's got to be experiential. Being able to hold your ground and yet stand firm when you know you're on the losing side, because you can be right. Something else. You can have information which needs correction. But we cannot take that, because we are breeding youngsters who can only think of 100%. If it is anything less than 100%, I'm not good enough. And that I'm not good enough, or we're taking it to a different extreme altogether. You do whatever you want to. I mean, you're telling a child as small as 3 or 4 or 5 years old to do whatever you want to. Where is the parental guidance? What is the reason of an adult being present in that child's life when you're telling the child to do whatever you want to? Okay, you want to sleep, just keep sleeping. You want to watch TV, just keep watching TV. Where? So we need to, as adults, also begin to understand how to create balance. That intellect of the child is not developed at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old to decide, okay, do what you want. No. And then people are also making a mistake of becoming friends of their children. There are only 2 parents that a child gets. But a child gets many friends.
Yes.
And if you stop being parents, you rob the child off. So where is the lesson plan going? So it's very difficult. But the more it comes into an awareness, at least as adults, now even as adults, we need to get trained so that the children in our lives are getting those kind of abilities right from childhood. So the dark night of the soul, these lesson plans will not happen. The crisis moments will not happen, because the soul, the inner being of people is being enabled right from the earlier times. Still, difficult times will happen as per the karmic thing.
They're
But
bound
it
to
is
happen.
not only past life regression. What I mean to say is, sometimes, how can we not help ourselves? We may have realized that, it's very easy to give advice to people.
Mm.
But when it comes to your own self, it's very difficult to follow our own advice.
Mm.
And that becomes a point of joke for a lot of people. Oh, you're so good at giving advice. Why don't you follow your own advice? For a change, your life will change too.
Yeah.
We need to understand that when I'm talking about my own situation, I am in it. There's no gap.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at somebody else, I'm looking from a distance, and I can be more pragmatic at somebody else's situation. But it is difficult, and therefore we need help. Even a conversation is helpful. We need help to at least step back. Unless you've learned how to step back yourself.
So that was my next question. Like, are there any because sometimes it's a taboo. People don't want to go to therapists, or they don't want to talk about their problems to others because they don't trust them enough. Sometimes that also happens. So, is there a way, like, if again the self exploration versus a guided exploration? So, what, like, guided? Yes, we know that if you're going and you're talking to like someone who knows what all this is, so they will definitely be able to help you a lot better. But if for most people you are not able to access those kind of resources or people, so are there any, like, especially for people in the dark night of the soul phase, where again, like you said, you are right in the middle of it, so you don't see how to create that gap. So are there any techniques or any tools or tips that they can follow, the listeners can follow, that will definitely help them at least try to start creating, that gap, one step towards creating that gap between themselves and the situation?
I mentioned neuro-linguistic programming. NLP or neuro-linguistic programming is one particular methodology which works on the inner space. And when I say inner space, any experience that has happened, and that happens once, then it becomes a part of the memory. Now, memory also, in what mode you were emotionally at that point, it gets stamped or etched, or what is called conditioning of our personality. That happens. It gets anchored in a way. Now, each time when something happens, like a bell on the door is rung, and the same firing, like the neurons in our system, they are aligned in a particular way to give the same response. Like if I pinch myself, my brain has understood that it is a pinch. I will not giggle, I'll scream. So that's a conditioned response there. Now for that memory also, there is each time some external trigger happens. An external trigger can happen through conversations, through smells, through songs, through perfumes, through anything that can be triggered. When the trigger has happened, then the brain has started to relive the same experience the same way. Now, in neuro-linguistic programming, we work on the inner space. When we work on the inner space, it is how the event has been recorded in the brain. It will play like that. It will not have different permutations. It will not have different perspective. Oh, from her perspective, let me think, or his perspective, let me think. It is my experience. So my experience will start rolling like a movie, or like pictures or flashes, however, or like audio, visual, whatever, according to how it got stored the first time. Through neuro-linguistic programming, we are able to, without the person even spelling it out in as much detail as to what is going on, because some events have a lot of guilt and shame associated with it. So it's very difficult for a person to open up. Even if you do not want to open it, it can still be worked with. In a past life regression, obviously it's conversational, so opening up will happen. But what if that person is so stuck, so that trust can get built up? built up with time. A session through neurolinguistic programming has enabled a person's memory to shift. The historical event will remain in history, but the way it was saved inside has now changed because you've added, removed, shifted something or the other. It happens only with that person's participation. Let me also say that all of these things nobody else can make you do until you want to also. Well, you can be encouraged to do it, but you've got to be participated. However, in the process or in the activities or tools and techniques of NLP, you don't have to really sit. You can just go back to that event in your headspace, and then the facilitator works accordingly, and then the record or the memory can change. By and by, if you build enough trust in that person, and if you realize that this particular thing is nothing to do with this current life, for example, fears or phobias. I had somebody that I was working with, and we were working with fears and phobias through NLP. NLP works on fears and phobias as well. This person suddenly said, somebody has pushed me and I'm dead. And I've left my body and I'm looking from above. He had a phobia of heights. Now here, the gears had to be shifted from working for him in the here and now of the fear and phobia, of whatever the way the fear and phobia was stored inside the head, phobia now. The gears had to be shifted to a past life regression. How did you get pushed? Where are you? What do you look like? Etc. etc. So that session suddenly shifted, and it's happened to me with me a couple of times.
Wow.
There's a person who did not believe in past life regression at all, and said, please do not even tell me about past life regression. I said, fine. Now, this is a very senior person, and as you are senior, work-wise, at real top positions in organizations, it's very difficult for you to think or believe that, you're not able to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Now, a situation had happened in his life, real top in his career, but what happened in his life was that his daughter had met with an accident. He had just spoken to his daughter over the phone. He kept the phone down, went off to sleep. His daughter was studying elsewhere. And around 1 o'clock in the night, there's a phone call that comes that your daughter was, with a bunch of friends and the car fell in the gorge. And his entire life got upside down. Yeah. So, and the thing was to bring the daughter from that space to a place where he was, where medical treatment could be more monitored, more, all of that he had in mind. I need my daughter to be here. So the daughter was airlifted, brought back to where he was, and then the treatment started. And he was in the hospital constantly. And whenever he'd get a chance to see his daughter, he would see his daughter on the life support and everything. So it was very difficult. She survived. But this man, the event got etched in his headspace in such a way that for all the members of his family, he made life hell. If somebody did not pick his phone up, he would just go into panic. And what was his brain doing? Bringing up the flashes of all the images of hospitals. And the brain has now started to replace the daughter with that member of the family. And the hospital scene, and palpitations, and hopelessness, etc. So the brain has started to take over like that. Now he started seeing medical doctors because all his vitals were off the mark. The blood pressure, the stress levels, pains in the body, all of that was just happening. Finally, he was told by a doctor saying, we are giving you a lot of medicines, but you really need to work here. So he went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist also gave him medicines which really derailed him even more because his body started to react with the medicines that he'd been given. So he told me, he said, I don't know what you'll be able to do. But this is what the situation is, let's see. So what was the problem? Was the problem his blood pressure? No. The blood pressure was an outcome as a result of something which was happening inside him. What was the problem? Was that event of his daughter meeting with an accident and being in the ICU for a lot of days. That was the event that we had to work with. That was the memory that we had to work with. Now, I was working with this memory internal space, and slowly and slowly and slowly the backache got okay. The heart palpitation got okay. The blood pressure started to normalize.
Wow.
Right? So that event was a problem. We need to work with the cause. Neuro-linguistic programming and past life regression both take you to the causes. Any medicine, symptomatically, which is happening in the body. So the dis-ease which is now getting created in the mind because of this particular experience sitting in the head has started creating disease in the body also. Hypertension, sugar levels, stress level, all of that. What is the problem? The problem is what is sitting in the headspace. That is what is needed to be done. And further on into the session, there was something else that was going on in his life. And in one of the sessions that we were doing, he never wanted to do a past life. And he suddenly said, I'm dressed up in this royal outfit. I'm on a horse. And I'm going somewhere. And I'm in this fort. And they've captured me. And they've tied me to a pole. And I've been left there to die. So, because that event or that thing about his life also needed to find an answer for him, is where I was doing a simple NLP session with him, but it suddenly changed into a functional session. And he said, what happened? He said, who was that? I said, was it not you? He said, yeah, that was me on the horse, but how did that happen? I've never ridden a horse in this life. Because it wasn't right. He said, no, it wasn't this life. I said, okay, what time period was that? 1500 something. Where? Rajasthan, India. So, when it is needed for that person, and the trust had grown, okay, so we had done a few interactions, as a result of which the trust had grown, he was becoming more and more vocal about things. There were certain events in his life which, from childhood and from early career life, he was unable to speak about. We still were able to work with those.
Wow.
The thing is, we need to work. And past life regression kind of things maybe are not meant for everybody, Parul. Because if you're scared about something, you will never be able to experience surrender and what that life. So not everybody needs to go through past life regression. My only point is, it's important to seek help. It's very important to seek help. And you will definitely find a way or reach somebody who you can trust. It's easier trusting strangers at times.
Yes. I think the non-judgmental thing comes because we don't want to open up because for the fear of being judged. Someone knows us, it's like, oh, he did that or he did that or they did that. So I think that definitely it does, especially in the society that we have. It's like I would call it a very fake society because everyone is on Instagram and these social media tools and people are pretending to be what they are not. So I think to be like the real self and be vulnerable to an actual person is even more difficult, especially for the younger generation. Because then what you see on Instagram, you see like people are like so successful. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes because nobody will show you that. So it's like they are being sucked into that cycle of they're just seeing the success. Like when you look at an iceberg, you just see like the 1/4 part. The 3/4 is like under the ocean. So they're just seeing the 1/4 and they're saying, oh my God, this person is so successful. They have X number of followers. They have so much of money. Oh, look at, they have their jets and X, Y, Z, whatever. And materialistic. Again, we are moving away, I feel, from, it's not even moving away. It's like a balance, I think. Somewhere people are being spiritual, plus they are being materialistic. So it's that. But kids nowadays, they're more influenced with, materialistic things. So it becomes difficult for them to trust a real person and show themselves as they are for the fear of danger. So I think definitely this also has led to a lot of kids, going down that mental health crisis mode because they cannot come to terms with what's happening in the real world because they are living so much in a virtual world, with Instagram and with all these reels and TikTok and XYZ. They are seeing people being so successful like overnight. It's not overnight.
Overnight,
You don't understand. I think that is deciding what you explained, you have to seek help and work with yourself. I mean, if you don't want to do that, work with yourself. But at least find one person that you feel comfortable talking to. And like you said, please do find one. At least you have one person. Your parents sometimes. Your parents are always there. Friends, I wouldn't say that much because friends keep on changing, but parents, I think, is one thing which kids, I think nowadays don't understand that. That there's always like someone there for you. So the case that you explained, that was like really interesting. Like the that was, I think, his dark night of the soul. I was just thinking like, when he had that experience, that his life just fell apart. He could not imagine something like that. Why did it happen to him? Right? So that was his dark night of the soul. But again, through guided, exploration, like your NLP as well as past life regression, that happened like by default, by chance, impromptu. Yeah, that's the right word. I mean, I think he might have been able to work through that. But for people who do not have admin access to that, I think we should at least try to find, or maybe like write a journal or something, like whatever you are feeling, write about it, so at least it comes out of your history.
Yes, some people, for the fear of somebody else reading it, don't write it. But then once you write it, just light it up and burn it.
Burn it, yeah.
Or flush it down, or just so that nobody else gets to. Sometimes things are so personal that you don't want anybody else to know about that. Write it down and burn it.
Right.
And with that burning, think that whatever you wrote down, you actually removed it from your body or removed it from yourself, and you just offered it to fire, and fire is going to purify and cleanse it. All of these visualizations, all of these things that we can do are very helpful. Journaling, very helpful.
But I think, like, going back to what you said about the karma part, I think if, like, for me personally, I have felt like whenever I am in a situation, I kind of try to see what is it trying to teach me. My first reaction is initially, yes, it was like, oh my God, why did this happen? The fear comes in and the anger comes in, frustration comes in, and all those low vibrations, come in, and then you are in that mode. But now if something is happening, I'm like, okay, what is it trying to teach me? Because if I learn that lesson, which my soul had already planned for me, I will have to take it anyways. And there's no jumping the, gun and kind of moving away from it.
There's no instant gratification as far as these lessons are concerned.
I have to
take care of that.
So it's just like, what is it? What is this thing trying to teach me? I mean, for me, that's the first thing that I always tell everyone. Whenever you are in a bad situation, what is it trying to teach you? Because you put yourself, your soul put yourself again, karma. So I think if looking from the lens of, the karmic cycles and the patterns that we have, if we can look at our lives and the dark night of the soul, especially the phase between the dark night of the soul, through the karmic lens, I think it really puts so much perspective that this was planned for me. So, I think as human beings, we feel very comfortable when someone says, if we are putting the kind of the blame on someone else, that, this was their fault, So at least that can be a starting point to put a gap. That, okay, this was planned by my soul, so let's see how I'm going to figure it. So I think that any way we can create a gap, again, with the karmic thing, I think if people understand that, rather than the punishment and, you are being rewarded, the reward punishment thing, I think that is a very bad way of looking karma, and that is what people have been proliferating. Karma is like, you do this instant karma. No, there's no instant karma. You were meant to go through that is why. So I think, one, getting the karmic definitions clear in our mind. Two, learning about what the types of karmas are so we can kind of organize our lives around that and see using the techniques that you just kind of, shared, like in the NLP thing or the past life regression or writing, journaling, and working with yourself and creating that gap. I think for the listeners, the creating the gap, that should be your starting. Start from there and then see where, how. And it's like, I always feel the universe is going to help you if you say things are happening for me instead of saying things are happening for me. So you move out of that victim mentality. That why does this happen to me? Like things are happening for me. So I think you start from there. At least that's how I would say I went through my dark night of the soul. Like what is happening? Why is this happening? Rather than becoming the victim, I think if we can kind of uh, you know distance ourselves and watch. That is something I think we can really very well.
So when you talk about your own experience, Parul,
Mm.
I think your spiritual journey would have gotten accelerated post that phase that you're terming as the dark night. That is the design. We need to remember that we are spiritual beings in a human body.
Mm.
And our life, all of that is the growth of the soul. So that is what we are experiencing all these. But the intense experience of the physical body, the pain that is felt in the physical body, we let it remain in the physical body. So we just think that it is happening to me as far as the impact or the intensity of it is concerned. But we always, and all those ones who are actually able to relate to what we are saying right now,
Mm.
who would have gone through some existential crisis in their life, such that there was an hour or never,
Mm.
and when they trusted their own selves, or when even a little help from outside would have carried them or enabled them to carry or hold on to that needle, or a small little branch in a torrential or in a stormy water.
Mm.
Our spiritual journey begins from that point onwards or gets accelerated. So we may say that I was always spiritual, but something happened beyond that time that I've taken on a next level journey. So this was the road earlier, this was that period, however long it was, this is where my road now is.
Mm.
I'm not that person anymore.
Right.
People say you change.
Yes, yeah.
I say thank you for acknowledging.
Yes. Yeah. I think they shape us more. They are the ones like the turning points in our life. And you again, like you said, you just cannot go back. You cannot unsee what you already
What you have already seen.
seen. You cannot
Yeah.
unknow what you've already known.
Yeah.
So you just cannot look at the thing in the same way again. It's like a complete whole new world. I think this kind of leads us into another topic which we'll do for the third podcast, which is like, how do you change your reality? Because we say like each person is living in their own reality. Each person is building their own reality around it, right? So we have the concept of the Mahakash. There's the Akashic field. We see so many, YouTubers talking about, oh, we can read the Akashic fields and we can do this and we can do that. So for me, it's like, even if we are living in the same house, each one is looking at all the things. Each one is tasting the same food, but I don't know what your food tastes like, right? I don't know. Like I can see myself. Okay, this is how I look for people. That's from my perspective. I don't know how you are looking at it because I don't have your eyes. So your reality is yours. Mine is mine. Despite the fact we're looking at the same thing. So I think this is another thing that people definitely and the listeners. I'm like very interested in all this. Like how do you change your reality? Because I think that's the concept. Dark Night of the Soul is meant for you to change your reality.
It's specially crafted and designed.
Yes. So how do you kind of move ahead after you kind of touched the dark side of the soul? We went into it. We created the gap. We learned like certain things we can do in order to walk that journey, but not go down the other spiral rabbit hole where you go down into depression and why do things happen to me instead of saying let's things are happening for me. That's meant to be. and we're going down the other path. We're saying, okay, let me transform like a phoenix. And now we've come to a point where the reality has changed. So how do we maintain that reality, and how do we kind of lift ourselves up at other times when we are vibing very low? Because I think that is what most people deal with. Suddenly things happen and they kind of feel bad. So how do we switch our reality into something better that we want? So I think that will definitely be the next podcast topic. I'm going to start working on it right now. I'm telling you, so you have time for that also. So I think this was an amazing session. There were so many things I learned a lot, and I think the listeners also learned a lot because these concepts nobody explains to me. People just throw these technical terms and these fancy stuff around terms like that, right? Obviously, but I think he really explained it so beautifully, like where it's, how does it start, why does it happen, what is it, and how can we deal with it. So I think this was like one of the most beautiful, amazing sessions that we have, and we'll have many more. But thank you so much for being part of it.
I love the way you sum it all up.
Summarized.
And your own internal experience and your specific experiences clubbed into this understanding really adds on to the summing up of it very nice.
Thank you so much, Nidhie, for being part of this series. And we'll, for all of you listening out there, we'll be back with how to change your reality and how to kind of maintain your reality. And we'll talk about some other Vedantic concepts as well. Because I think that really ties beautifully into all this. And
Yes.
because the base is that. So we will bring those Vedantic concepts back. And because I think it really ties very, very beautifully into what reality is. Bring in Maya, bring in the Brahman, bring in the Purush and the Shakti and all those concepts. I think they're very, very interesting. And yeah, and their mind too. People need to understand that if we look at life from that perspective, things become so easy to understand, and life becomes a breeze essentially. Because you don't take anything personally there. It's just happening to the body, not to the soul. So that separation happens. And I think that is what we all aim for, and that is what we all continuously have to work towards. So we will be bringing all those concepts to all of you. And thank you so much for being part of this podcast with us. And we'll catch you later. Bye.